one of the tools that is great for parents and caregivers to use, and it's called an ABC or an antecedent behavior consequence. With multiple days or weeks of data collection, this could help us determine a function. So let's start with A. A means antecedent. This is what happens immediately before the behavior. This could mean the timer went off, signaling that the iPad was ending. Sibling took a preferred toy without asking. Parents asked the child to put their shoes away for school time. Transitioning from playtime to bath time. Antecedents could be a simple thing like a sign on the grass that says keep off grass. This can signal to you to take a step off the grass, but say you're running late and you see the same sign, but you run straight through it to get where you're supposed to be on time. Sometimes the antecedents can cause the behavior, or it may have no effect of behavior at all. It's important when taking data to be as detailed as possible. And the B, this is behavior. Remember what behavior means? Anything that a person does that is observable and measurable. Remember the example I went through with anxiety. That is that umbrella term with multiple behaviors. If you're taking data without a behavior definition, it is important that the word that is associated with that behavior also has a specific description of what the behavior looks like. For example, aggression could look different from individual to individual, but a definitions like hitting a person with a closed fist and makes an audible sound is descriptive enough so we know what it looks like. Behaviors, most of the time, have a clear set onset and offset or start and stop. I worked with individuals that the topography, so just what the behavior looks like, it was the same as their stimming behavior. And that particular definition would have an inclusion and exclusion criteria. If you're taking data under the guidance of a BCBA, you can ask for an ABC data sheet with definitions. Though if there is a behavior that is concerning or dangerous, it is important that you be as descriptive as possible and let your BCBA know. So here's an example of an ABC data sheet. This was given to a caregiver, and then in this case, it was given to a teacher. And as you can tell on the bottom of the data sheet, there are the examples of the definitions. So SIB usually means self-injurious behavior. And that definition was any instance of them pulling their own hair or causing redness or bleeding to oneself. Tantrum, any instance, but not limited to if they're crying, yelling, so that's above conversational level, falling to the floor, kicking feet for more than 30 seconds, and the tantrum ends when they have stopped crying or yelling for a minute. So this one has that clear onset and offset. They're kicking for more than 30 seconds and they end when they are stopped for a minute. And then aggression, any instance of hitting with the hands open or closed fist, scratching, pulling hair, and or kicking toward others. Though if there is not a behavior that is not, or if the behavior is not on this list and it's dangerous or occurs frequently and you want the BCBA to know, just remember to be as descriptive as possible. And then the top of this data sheet has the date, the length of the behavior, the antecedent, which what happens immediately before the behavior, and the consequence, which happens immediately after the behavior. And we're going to go into that consequence now. So I know in society, when you're thinking about a consequence, you think about something bad, like giving a consequence to a bad behavior. But this just means what happens immediately after the behavior. It is how the parent or the sibling or the peer responds to that behavior. This could reinforce the behavior. So remember, that's going to increase the chance of the behavior happening in the future. The first example, say the iPad was removed and the individual started screaming and yelling, and then the mom gave the iPad back for 5 more minutes. Remember the kid in the candy store example, that the giving the iPad back for 5 minutes may have reinforced them screaming and yelling. Or For some good examples of good behavior, someone asks appropriately for more time on the iPad, and the caregiver gets more time and says, "Thank you for asking so nicely." That may happen more in the future. And here's just some examples of ABC in action. And we're going to start with these behaviors. So a child threw an iPad on the couch and screamed no for 90 seconds. What happened right before? What was that antecedent? The timer signaled at the end of iPad time. What happened right after? What was that consequence? The dad gave 5 more minutes of iPad time. So giving that 5 more minutes could have reinforced them screaming no and throwing the iPad. This behavior of the next one, the child ripped the worksheet and yelled, "I can't do this." What happened right before? The teacher asked the child to start with the math worksheet. And that consequence, what happened right after? The teacher removed the worksheet and gave a break. And so I don't want to say good and bad examples, but for better behavior example, the child said, "Can you help me?" and began to put the toys in the bin. What happened right before? That antecedent, mom asked the child to clean up the toys before dinner. And the consequence, the mom helped for the first minute and praised for the effort. Nice job asking for help. And the last example here, the behavior, the child took a deep breath and said, "I need 1 more minute." That antecedent, what happened right before? The parent told the child it was time to stop playing and get dressed. And that consequence, what happened right after? That parent gave the 1-minute warning and praised for having a calm voice. And I see some questions coming in. And I remember I will answer them again at the end. Thank you so much for asking some questions. Effective ABC data collection. So the best is to collect data in the moment. I know that's easier said than done. Most caregivers and other parents have multiple things going on at once, taking care of multiple kids, cooking. So I know that in the moment data collection is very hard, but when possible, when the details are freshest right after the behaviors occur, that is the best time to do it, just so it's more fresh in your brain. The more information, the better. The more details you can provide, the more helpful it is to your BCBA. I know personally, and for a lot of my other BCBA colleagues, we really like to know every single detail. And then consider taking videos. So if you have a hard time trying to figure out what that clear antecedent is, if there is a clear antecedent, so what happens to that before, or you're having a hard time of knowing what happens directly after, or what that consequence is, consider taking videos, and your team we can work through together to see if we can see a clear antecedent or a clear consequence. Use simple forms or apps. There's a ton of apps for data collection. I know I have a clicker app on my phone, and that is just an easy way to keep, if you have like a frequency data or something that happens multiple times throughout the day, that you could just click your little clicker data so you don't have to remember throughout the day. And then look for patterns across multiple instances. Remember, we're going to try and take multiple data points. So we're not going to just be doing it in one day. We're going to be doing it throughout the day, throughout the week, or multiple weeks. In the research world, we say 2 is a coincidence and 3 is a pattern. We're going to include those successful moments too. I love when I hear good things. Love, love, love when I hear good things. They make me so happy. And that's just one step closer of your child or your individual not needing me. And I love to not be needed. As much as I love working with the individuals and seeing their progress. And then share your data with your therapy team so we can see if we can also see a pattern that you're not seeing, or maybe you're seeing a pattern that we're not seeing. We love to collaborate.